are listening to Spaceboy Universe on the SBU network.
Explore the universe with Spaceboy and Sir Lana.
Minutes, 21 seconds. 5-second tone followed by a 1-second pause.
You are listening to Spaceboy Universe.
Okay, gang, let's go.
From the space city called Houston, Texas, welcome to Spaceboy Universe, featuring Spaceboy and the lovely Sir Lana. So strap in and prepare for launch sequence.
Greetings and welcome to Spaceboy Universe. I am Spaceboy, and across from me is the lovely Sir Lana. Yay! It is March 24th, 2018, and tonight's guest is Marcha Fox. And man, we're going to have a great night with her tonight. As always, follow us on Twitter. That's at the SB Universe. Follow Sir Lana at Sir Lana, and follow me, Spaceboy, at Spaceboy Music. And of course, follow the network that brings you all this fine programming, and that's at the SBU Network. Remember to hashtag the tweets tonight with hashtags SBUniverse and hashtag Space Cadets. Want to hang out with them Space Cadets? You can do so because there's such a motley crew that we are happy to have in our universe. And that's by going to spaceboyuniverse.com, click on the dancing chat bubble, click in, and that will get you in with all the cool kids. In addition to Twitter, you can find the SBU on Facebook, Tumblr, SoundCloud, iTunes, YouTube. Just look for Spaceboy Universe. You know, speaking of YouTube, you know, you can find more than the SBU archive of shows there. There is video content from Spaceboy Music, video interviews, 2-Bit Gamers, and so much more. So go there, catch it. Can't catch a show live? Well, no problemo. Take the SBU on the go with you via Spreaker, SoundCloud, and iTunes. And man, have I totally forgot about iHeartMedia. Yes, all those wonderful things. They let you take SBU on the go into the universe while you explore it. And on that magical note, how are you, Sir Lana?
Pretty good.
Good. Wow, that sounded very peppy for once. I expected.
I told you I can fake it.
The thing is that a few days ago we had a wonderful conversation with Patrick Sporer, and
that's always gives you a pep.
Yes, and our conversation started off with, "Hello, I'm Sir Lana."
I had a terrible headache.
Yeah, but I thought you were going to pull a gun.
And
the
only reason I was in here is because I have to run Skype, because you have to sit over there and you were having him do ads, so we could have his little, ad whatever for himself on our network. So
things that are coming down.
But I had to be here because I'm on this side and you're on that side. And
my next victim is Solora, but she doesn't know it. But I have to.
But I had a terrible headache that I had come home from work for, and it just obliterated me. And so I was down because I was in pain, and I was trying not to be a butt about it. So, but it did pull me down, So.
Yeah, but anyway, at the end of that conversation, Patrick Sporer was having us take our money, please, kind of moments,
Yeah, he did make me think that, about some things that, don't get locked into the one thing and one mindset. Keep all your opportunities and possibilities open. Don't get focused on this one goal when a new goal may pop up and bring you closer to the other one.
Right. So it's always good advice from him, and that's why we sing his praises.
We didn't talk about the stuff we talk about on our show, because we talk by friend to friend,
right,
with him.
Yeah, And then, of course, we caught him on Solaris Blue Raven's show
Last
Friday
night.
night, and chimed in there, and we're part of the archive audio on that show. And, it's always a
Go
great...
back and check out last night's show on K-Core.
Yeah, K-Core.
K-Core.
The channel created by Tina
KOCOR.
Marie. Tina Marie, we love her to death. Great lady, and
You wouldn't admit that to her last night, though.
oh, I have this tendency to razz people when I really like them, and Tina's one of those people. She's great. She's an awesome bowler. She's just an awesome person. I mean,
I like to bowl. I stink at it, but I like it.
At some point we'll get back there. I know you've mentioned it a few
Let's do
times.
that.
So, but yeah. Check out K-Core for the archive of Solaris Blue Raven show last night, Hyperspace, and...
they had a good conversation. It's like, we can't have conversations like that because we don't understand things on the levels that they do and understand things with their experiences. We don't have experiences like that.
Okay, this sounds like the conversation we had at lunch today where I was talking about, when I die, you can hook up with this other guy, and you were saying that...
that guy would not give me time of day in that type of context because I'm not intelligent enough for that guy.
And I was like, wait a minute, why are you with me then in the first place?
I think you're settling.
Whatever.
You're settling. That's why.
Like a foundation.
Mm-hmm.
So, it's been a great,
we've had a good day today.
outside of my normal work, it's been great. And today has been good.
We had a planning meeting we attended for upcoming Houston Maker Faire and Comic Palooza, because Maker Faire is part of the Comic Palooza venue. So we were trying to learn about what we need to do to get on board with these venues and other opportunities come along that we could volunteer and help the coordinator out. So when we did this at the Houston Community College A-Leaf campus, which is on Westheimer Road, and it was a brand new building dedicated to engineering. I mean, this was like brand new. It opened in January. And so the guy who you knew, who kind of runs the whole building and space, there's a maker space inside this building.
Well, first off, she's describing the gentleman I knew actually was my professor or teacher.
Yeah, he taught you Photoshop?
HCC. I mean, it's kind of like, really, you know who I learned Photoshop from? Is you. By just watching you and cuss at it and do all these things.
And I learned it by not having a life and just doing tutorials.
But it was my class that I needed to, one class to graduate, and he was my last class, and he was great. He was cool. I love him. And
y'all bonded. And
so
he's there. He let us in the building, and you're like, hey, it's you. So he knows you already.
Yeah, he knows me as Space Boy.
And he gave us a tour, he and the other people that showed up, of the facility of that building, and it was just crazy cool. They have like the latest technologies in these rooms. They had something called a collaboratorium or something like that, a collabor space or something like that.
I don't mean to pause you right there, Solana.
Cool.
There's something I want to bring up real quick, and we can jump back onto this because it's very important that I get this special.
I figured we were going to get to that.
Well, special alert. I wanted to, we will, but I want to get this out of the way because Dennis has been so much for us, and we appreciate Dennis. And I just wanted to wish him a happy birthday. His birthday's tomorrow. And from the universe, we wish you a happy birthday, Dennis. We wish you for many more. And as you know, we thank the world of you and all the things that you do. So happy birthday. All right. So
yes, I agree. It's just I'm more anti-birthday.
I know you're anti.
So I assume everyone else is
I'm
too.
about the hey, congratulations, it's your birthday. I want you to feel good. You, on the other hand, is like...
It's like, hey, you're not dead, and I'm glad about it.
Oh, well, I've never felt that way when it comes to me.
That's all that birthdays are. Once you're past 21, it's like, yay, you're not dead.
But anyway, happy birthday, Dennis, and for many more, and we're just happy that you're a part of our universe. So there you go. So if you want to pick up, Solana, we're...
well, we had this cool tour of the space where you can come in. It's a maker space. You come in and make your projects, and the space we were in was, of course, the 3D printing with all those kind of cool printers. There was a woodworking place. What else did they have? A place for more traditional.
They had woodworking. They had metal,
yeah.
metal jewelry. Future spots where they're going to have these things. They didn't have all the
No, they wasn't
things,
quite all there.
Yeah,
but they had. Tell them about the one push button recording studio.
Oh yeah, that was fun. As they were giving us the tour, they brought us into this area where it had the video thing, and I was like, "Oh, this is really cool." And all I could think of is, man, I wish this was here when I was doing my HCC round to get my associates. But I love it because you walk in, and it's really dummy proof because you just look at a sign and it tells you, come here, this is the first step, do this here, and then go to the second step, do this here, and then stand in front of the camera and then do your presentation. And it's all set up. I love the fact that they put carpet on the wall, the soundproofed it and everything, and it just,
they got the lighting set up, the mic's already ready, the board behind you.
Yeah, I was impressed with it. It's very minimal.
Mac computers. You walk over, you click a button, you put your stick in the USB hub, and you click.
It saves it automatically.
Saves automatically to MP4 to your stick, and off you go.
What I also liked about it, he was saying that there was a little extra room. They were worried about it being too big, but I looked at it like, well, that's good because then you have off to the side,
put extra equipment.
Extra equipment. You can put your props or whatever stuff. I'm thinking like what we do. And
cast the characters off to the side.
Exactly. So that was impressive. And then I didn't get to see the room, but as we were about to leave, we were talking about this extra room, and they're talking about putting podcasting as a part of their thing there. And he wanted to pick my brain, so at some point I might be going back and giving some advice and then also maybe telling the SBU story, so to guide and mold future podcasters. So I thought that was really cool, and
to work the little minds.
And it's like you were saying is in our conversations today is that and then it ties in with what Patrick was talking about, how our main goal. We might be going against the tide, and it might be a situation going down a secondary river, but somehow the river comes back, and
you've got to keep yourself open for opportunities that don't even look like they're related to things you're doing.
And then that's why I like about the interesting thing how we all ended up into this Maker Faire situation, and then doing the Comic Palooza thing.
It's pretty funny.
Is that we went to Texas Robotics International?
No, we went to Comic Palooza 2015 or 2016.
We've done 3 Comic Paloozas.
Yeah.
The first one was as just.
No, we look. You went and you were in your spaceman outfit, and the robotics team was there, and they pulled you over, and we got to talking to him, and you interviewed him, and now we're like friends.
Yeah, they invited us to the Texas Robotics,
who is also the coordinator for Maker Faire.
Where at that time we met
David.
So David Bernay, who was doing the Maker Faire, and that's how we got tied into that. And
all because you're wearing a spacesuit, and you would think, being in a Houston convention, there'd be more, but you were the only guy in an astronaut suit.
Well, it's like I always say, space takes you places. So it's been fun, and it's amazing how something something that simple grew into something else, and it's quite amazing.
And of course, I'm hoping you're going to don the suit again. Maybe we'll have some different heads
costumes,
on. There'll be different things on your head. You always make one appearance as you, and then the Space Boy, and then you'll switch it up with a different kind of latex mask just to be crazy. So I've got some ideas for you, and it's always like when you put that chimpanzee mask on with your spacesuit.
That's a big hit.
Oh my gosh, that was like being in a rock star's entourage. That was so much fun.
I think at some point I felt like we were.
That's all I ask you is do that one more time, and the rest is up to you.
I think at some point we might have been taking off NASA because we would come down there in a different suit altogether.
I don't think NASA was paying us any attention. I really don't.
And but that was fun. I enjoyed it.
Cared.
But yeah, I'm sure we're looking at some other masks and stuff right now, and. And then plus as we move forward, as we've mentioned this before, if you're interested in being a part of the crew, we're going to be needing some people for Comic Palooza coming up in May.
And to be honest with you, it's not going to be glamorous or anything. It's just really the main thing we need is somebody to sit there in the booth and just watch our stuff.
But, Solana always puts the dead part into this conversation.
Unless you're charismatic and you're a people person.
The thing is that, there's going to be plenty of opportunities to get out, check out the Comic Palooza in general, see what's going on.
We'll even let you go to the restroom at least once.
Once again, we want people. Solana doesn't. That's why she keeps saying it the way she does. So
yeah, I do. In fact, if we could get enough people, I won't even have to be in the booth.
Well,
I could be elsewhere.
Where are you going to go?
I could check out what's on the second and third floors because we never got up there.
Well, if my camera idea goes through, then that is something that Anyway, the invitation is open. So if you're going to be in the Houston area and you'd like to work with us,
and this will be in the George R. Brown.
And if you'd like to work with us, as Solana is saying, it's going to be at the George R. Brown, and it's going to be the 24th, 25th, or 25th, 26th, and 27th.
Wait a minute, let's confirm that.
Confirm that date. So
25th, 26th, 27th. That's okay. Friday, Saturday, Sunday.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. If you give us 1 day, 2 days.
Yeah. I mean, it's you'll get to hang out with us. If you've never met us in person, a small group of people like Kay, who has met us, and Kay is about to get a black eye very shortly. And so, yeah.
Don't be mean.
Yeah, well, you're the one being mean. You just don't like announcing that,
Who
so.
cares? I mean, really.
Solana's birthday's coming up. Anyway, so, let us know. Contact at spaceboyuniverse.com. That's contact at spaceboyuniverse.com. Let us know if you're going to be in the Houston area on those dates. And we would love to have you down, Space Cadets, if you're going to be in the area. To hang out, sit in the booth, to talk to people about the SBU. I mean, who knows it better than the Space Cadets? So, yeah, if you want to be a part of the universe down here at the Comic Palooza, just let us know at contact at spaceboyuniverse.com. Thank you for Solana for putting that in the chat room. On that, what else we got on the table today?
Well, I finally found out what's the holdup with Rick and Morty Season 4.
Okay, do tell. I kind of already know.
Season 4 delay due to contract negotiations.
What? I guess they want more schmeckles, right?
Schmeckles has not been renewed by Adult Swim, which is owned by Cartoon Network. Mm-hmm. So the series creator Dan Harmon had explained this. Of course, we know Dan Harmon as the brainchild of the NBC's Community that also got axed due to problems with personalities and negotiations. So he's no stranger to having projects fraught with issues like this. So he and the other showrunner creator, Justin Roiland, who does both the voices of the two main characters of Rick and Morty, now they become one of the most acclaimed animated shows on TV, one of the top, and I mean it's not for kids. So they're a rabid fan base, and they're clamoring for more. So Harmon put out this tweet about Rick and Morty. It's a long way off, Season 4. Adult Swim has not ordered Season 4, despite its third season being the biggest ever in terms of ratings and cultural impact. Can you say Szechuan sauce, McDonald's?
Mm-hmm. Angry people not getting it?
What could be the cause of Adult Swim to pause to even, stop? Why wouldn't they just be jumping on it to renew it? Well, Harmon says that it remains up in the air because they're bogged down in contract negotiations with Turner Broadcasting, which owns, its parent company owns Cartoon Network / Adult Swim. And they're not working on Rick and Morty because, this is his quote, "The reason we're not working on Rick and Morty ain't because I figured out that I don't need to impress you. It's because of a little something called contract negotiations, and it's gotten complicated this time around."
Probably because of the popularity. I mean...
So it's not the first time he's gone to war against the suits. The whole debacle with NBC and Community, which was an awesome show, and then NBC messed that up. So there's still a possibility that a Community movie is in the works, but that's up in the air too. So ultimately, Rick and Morty should be able to return. They think Adult Swim wants it. Nothing else on that network inspires the same kind of fan base passion. So they do have plenty more story ideas after the wild ride of season 3. It would be a shame if it just ended because of money problems. So, but as you and I have seen, Rick and Morty have been making some cameo appearances. They've done a VR game. They've done some small animated, turning up in like like Dead Mouse shows, and they're doing short animatics. You know, as you saw, like little music videos, and of course, the Szechuan sauce will be back at McDonald's, and everybody will get some that wants it. They're not going to run out this time.
Well, good. That's some good stuff, you know, and people lost their minds when they did this limited, you know, only 7
what were they
things
thinking
per store is that they were doing. I think that was, you know, although it's like McDonald's, like, okay, this is a good idea, but they didn't follow through on it, and I think they're trying to follow through on it now. After the fact, but we'll see what happens. You know, it's all in.
But
good.
still, hey, that's publicity for McDonald's. Hey, did you know on March 24th, 20 years ago, today on March 24th, AOL Hub folded. It was designed for college-age men, described as edgy and not full of crap. It was supposed to launch a record label called Hub Music and to send singles over the net for music singles. But by 1998, AOL was tired of making original material and started shifting to partnerships. And they merged with Time Warner in 98. So, you know, that could have been really something.
It could have been.
Have you ever heard of OROM discs? Optical read-only memory?
Yeah. Been a while, but yeah.
That happened 20 years ago, around this time.
You know what else happened this month in history?
What?
Space Boy Music was born.
Oh, yeah, that's right.
It happened in, it's a little past the date,
This month.
March 9th in 1999. Space Boy Music was
March
created.
9th.
Yeah.
And I remember that now because the next day, the 10th, is National Meatball Day. So it's easy to remember.
I appreciate you associate Space Boy Music with meatballs.
But that's good, tasty, stick to your ribs like your music and your talent.
You know, it's always charming when you try to butter me up and I can see through your facade.
Because I don't do it often. I buttered you up at lunch today.
It's a weird thing when you... I'm trying to... I know it wasn't when I was talking... You were talking about the mental level of my intelligence.
Well, when I said, you know, I'm too stupid for this other guy to notice me, and you're like, well, what are you doing with me? Yeah, I do wish that, but the whole thing where we were at today, it made me feel lazy and insecure and stupid because we're not makers and we're not creators and we're not.
Well, first off, this is your.
We don't make cool stuff and we don't help influence young kids.
We do a lot of cool stuff,
but no one knows about.
You know, our space cadets are not chopped liver. They appreciate what we do. You know, we do the multimedia, social media. We do the art. We do the music.
They all these people are involved in and what they do, and
yeah,
like that's so cool.
Not everybody. Not everybody can be a lawyer. Not everybody can be a doctor or an engineer. I mean, there are different things. Thank God that humanity is like the Baskin Robbins of do anything, you know. Everybody's different in their own right.
That's a damn cool quote you just put out there.
Copyright 2018 Space Boy.
Humanity is the Baskin Robbins of creativity.
Yeah, so, you know. I got to put that one on the shelf with Gene Hackman.
I want that cross-stitched on a pillow.
Coming soon to a T-shirt near you. But no, seriously, you know.
In fact, I better write that down before I forget.
this is your husband doing pep talk with you, and
I don't think you understand where I'm coming from.
I do,
because
but
all the cool, like the physical things they've made and they put out there, and
just because
the stuff that they're into, like, hey, did you see this? Do you know about this? I'm like, no. I just don't know. I just wish I was more something. I don't know what it is I need to be, but I'm not it.
Well, behind closed doors, you play a mean piano.
What the Sam Hill are you talking about? You keep bringing this up, and I haven't touched a keyboard
in a long
since
time.
that day.
That's because I live with you now. So, it was different when I would, come, over to your house and or your apartment and stand outside and listen to you play music on your keyboard. And
why,
then as soon as I'd
why
knock,
do you bring that up every 5 years?
Well, because I'm looking at the calendar. It's due to bring up. I've dusted the cobwebs off that one, and I'm saying here is that you are creative, and you choose to paint yourself as a non-creative.
Well, something inside me burnt out for the last 3 years. I don't know what's happened, but it's starting to slowly.
Well, you did a
come back.
ladies and gentlemen. I'm sure those who follow me on Facebook have seen my picture that I posted of the end is near or the end is coming, and that was a lot of people were wondering what Spaceboy leaving Facebook? What's going on here? Is Spaceboy ending anything? No. Well, first off, I want to give credit to that artwork, Sirlana. Took my vision and made it 100% cool, and so that artwork is her work, and it's the new album covers. So I guess what I'm trying to say is there's new music coming from Spaceboy finally, and it's being organized, and I'd say within the next maybe month here, it'll be officially out, and the new album is called The End of the Beginning. And so check that out. So artwork is out there, and
I don't know what your process for that imagery I did. I don't know what you didn't really tell me what you thought it'd be, but I felt like it was more like that's you.
Mm-hmm.
That's really is you in the spacesuit. That's your spacesuit. Mm-hmm. You're going through some kind of transformation. Mm-hmm. Is that accurate?
Yeah, I would say so.
Okay.
And really the idea behind the album is that it's actually two albums, because the next album after this is called The Beginning of the End.
Sorry. Dennis is like, she makes you stand outside to play the piano, and then he wants to know if it's Christmassy, your next album.
I know. In fact, I do have a song that I've been working on. It's called Ty's Christmas. So
Ty's Christmas Carols.
No, it's not Ty's Christmas Carols. But anyway, the interesting thing about the next album, the new thing here at Spaceboy Music is that all the music posted at Spaceboy Music is free, right?
Yeah. Sometimes I forget. And I think you need to remind us.
Well, the music that is going to be posted from this new album is free. So as soon as it hits, I'll let everybody know, and then you can download new music for free. That's right. You don't have to pay a single dime. And all you have to do is download it, share it, tell people where you got it. Just don't use it for commercial use. If you want to use it for commercial use, reach out to me at contact@spaceboyuniverse.com, and we can arrange something. But for just Joe Schmo, the average consumer, or the Space Cadets, or whoever, it is free for you to play and do whatever you want with it. So where else are you going to find some really cool music at the price of free? So anyway, soon within the next 30 days or so, I'll have the new album up, and of course we'll let you know then. Hey, Sirlana, guess what?
It's the break time.
We're getting, we got bottom of the hour here, ready to get shifted into gears and get our guest on. So let me see here, look at the board here. Tonight's guest is Marcha Fox, right? Mm-hmm. I mean, I am so excited about this guest. Worked for NASA. She's an astrologer. She writes fiction books, sci-fi books, right? Oh,
let's go to the break now.
All right, so take this break, and we'll be back after this.
You are listening to Spaceboy Universe on the SBU network.
Explore the universe with Spaceboy and Sirlana.
Greetings, Space Cadets. Let's see what's in the sky tonight in the Space Boy universe. Tonight, in the eastern sky, we have Space Boy universe rising above the horizon in glorious splendor. And in the west, we can see Solanus Majoris, which is visible at 9 p.m. Central Standard Time, just below the K28 belt. So keep your eyes on the sky and listen to Space Boy universe. Greetings, Space Cadets. Let's see what's in the sky tonight in the Space Boy universe. Tonight, in the eastern sky, we have Space Boy universe rising above the horizon in glorious splendor. And in the west, we can see Solanus Majoris, which is visible at 9 p.m. Central Standard Time, just below the K28 belt. So keep your eyes on the sky and listen to Space Boy universe.
I'm from another planet. I'm from another planet. Can you hear me? Answer me. Can you hear me? Answer me.
The darn fool didn't have his lights on, sir.
Our job is to prevent a possible nationwide panic by keeping the information from the public.
I don't know why these saucer hoes have to wait till nighttime to put in an appearance.
listening to Space Boy Universe. Here are your hosts, Space Boy and Sir Ronnie.
Marcha Fox is a science fiction fan and author whose love of astronomy resulted in a Bachelor's of Science degree in physics from Utah State University. This was followed by a 21-year career at NASA, where she held a variety of positions including technical writer, engineer, and eventually manager. Her NASA experience was primarily at Johnson Space Center in Houston, Texas, but included trips to Cape Canaveral in Florida, visiting other centers in Mississippi, Alabama, and Maryland, as well as visits to California and the European Space Agency in the Netherlands. Her most memorable experience, however, was the sad task of helping to recover the space shuttle debris at East Texas following the tragic Columbia accident in 2003. She enjoys gardening, her 2 Bengal cats, and pursuing her study of the heavens in yet another realm, that of astrology. She currently makes her home in the Texas Hill Country and can be reached through her website at startrailsaga.com, and you can visit her on her author page on amazon.com. So please, welcome, Marcia.
Thank you so much. I'm thrilled to be here.
Well, we're thrilled to have you here, and it's pretty exciting. So we're looking forward to the conversation tonight.
And Space Boy is from the Hill Country.
Oh, yeah, and I was going to ask you, what part of the Hill Country?
I'm actually right across the street from Lake Buchanan, so I'm outside of the little town of Burnett.
Okay. I used to live out in Bandera, Texas.
Oh, okay. Yeah, the Hill Country covers a lot of area.
Yeah.
I'm probably about, 90 miles from the Austin airport, basically.
Okay.
Northwest of Austin.
Mm-hmm. Cool.
I find that to be fascinating terrain out there around, outside of Austin, where he's from. It literally is hills like I've never seen before.
Yeah, compared to Houston, especially.
Yeah, well, we're in a flat bayou down here, so.
Yeah, that's one thing I miss about living out in Bandera and in parts of San Antonio is, the hills and, the landscape is much different. And, living off the Edwards Plateau and, we're here in Houston, it's fairly flat here.
That's the cool thing about Texas in general. You've got all kinds. You've got some mountains, you've got hills, you've got bayous, you've got flats, you've got marshlands, deserty. You've almost got lush green areas, and
the deserts. I mean, it's really a melting pot. Yeah,
everything.
So we learned about you from a previous guest, and in full disclosure, my aunt. Dawn Ireland Greenfield, and she's I've known her my whole life, and she's written many books, and she said you should get Marcia on, she'd be great for your program, and gave us your information, and I said, wow, NASA, astrology, fiction books, and I was like blown away because of the gambit of everything you cover. And I guess where I'd like to start with somebody like yourself, Marcia, right?
Yeah.
Okay, just making sure. Yeah.
he has to make sure because he's been known to flub.
Yeah, I've been known
names.
to go off the deep end, like my Gene Hackman / Gene Wilder thing, and I'll tell you that another time, and you'll laugh at me. So, when did your fascination with space begin?
Oh, when I was a kid. I grew up in rural New York, and I remember looking at the stars at night and just wondering what they were, and my parents encouraged me to learn, especially my mom, and it always fascinated me. And I was writing science fiction stories by the time I was in 6th grade, explaining where my teachers came from, and I've just always had an interest to it. And what's really funnier is once I got into astrology, I could understand why, because there's a lot of things in my astrological chart that explain why I have this fascination with space and science and such things. So I was born with it, essentially. I was born with it.
So I guess as we move along, so you're writing books at an early age. you're fascinated by space. I guess you grew up during the space race. It's fair to say, right? And I guess as a country, just the idea of us moving towards getting a man on the moon, that moment in American history, or world history for that matter, was such an inspiration for humanity as a whole, to know that we finally put somebody on the moon. I guess put you in a situation to where, did you just want to I know I want to work at NASA?
Absolutely. I remember listening to the broadcast when they landed on the moon back in 1969. But at the time, I was 21. I had my first child. I was a high school graduate and just looked forward to being a wife and a mom. Mm-hmm. And nonetheless, that seed was planted because I thought that would be the coolest job in the whole wide world, to work for NASA. But it took many years before that came about, but it did. It was in 1983 that I finally went back to school to get a physics degree. I was 35 years old. I had 6 kids at home, but I was not going to let that dream die. And actually, the dirty little secret in there, and not really a dirty little secret, but it sounds good to say that, was I always wanted to be a science fiction writer. That was really my first love, but I knew I needed a science background and I needed some real-life experience in order to be a really good author. And so I take this 20-year detour working for NASA to prepare me to be a better science fiction writer.
That's a really complex, expensive way to become a science fiction writer. I think I'll work for NASA for 20 years just so I can write about it.
Well, Sirlana, don't you agree that most people write about what you know and talk about getting into the craft and hey, I love science. I like NASA. What a better way to get into science fiction that way. It's kind of ties back to the Star Trek thing where they kind of base it in science fact.
I was going to ask you if she liked Star Trek.
Yeah, well, there you go. Are you a Star Trek fan or a Star Wars fan?
Or any.
Or any.
Oh, really? That's probably a little more Star Wars than Star Trek. But of course, Star Trek was around back in the 50s and 60s, and so I was kind of getting indoctrinated through them way back then also. And I loved reading science fiction, and of course I read the great classic ones like Heinlein and Asimov, and those were the ones, and even back to H.G. Wells and Jules Verne. I read all of that when I was just in elementary school and just sucked it up. And I thought, I want to write this stuff when I get, grow up. And I was really grown up by the time I got to do it, but nonetheless, those childhood dreams do not die. And I tell my astrology clients all the time when they feel kind of lost and they don't know what they want to do for a living or whatever, and I can usually give them some clues by looking at their chart. But childhood dreams do not die because we are born with them, and they don't go away. And if we don't follow them, there's always going to be a big empty part inside of us.
But what if you didn't have a childhood dream? Because I don't recall wanting to be or do anything. Is that a goal? Is not wanting to have to do anything a goal?
Well, there's nothing wrong with that, and maybe this is one of your vacation lives that I read some books on. Seriously, and there's what the heck's his name? Michael Newton, and he's written these books. He's a psychiatrist or a psychologist, one of those, and he specializes in past life regressions, but he doesn't necessarily go all the way into the past lives. He goes to that period between lives of where we spend that time between incarnations. And he said in one of his books that when we have had a couple lifetimes that are really difficult and really wear us out, that you may eventually, after that, get a vacation life where everything is really pretty good. And you don't have to really go through all kinds of horrible trials or work really hard or have all these heart-wrenching experiences. So maybe you're in a vacation life, Sarana.
I don't know. If I am, it might be medium difficulty levels. Maybe I'm not on the...
Well, life is, it's never perfect. There's always going to be some challenges and whatever, but that makes me feel better where I don't get jealous of people who do have a really cushy life. Because I sit there and think they probably earned it.
Right.
It is their good karma coming back to them that they earned it through difficulties previously. And I hope my next one is a vacation life, because actually this one has been kind of hard. But I can't complain, you know.
Well, it's really interesting. It seems like your life has been space-based in some form or fashion. Either you're waiting to write about it, work in it, or study it, and
exactly.
That's really cool. So how you got your journey to NASA? So when you first started working there, what were you doing?
When I first went to work there, I was in the life sciences department, and I was what was called an experiment coordination engineer, but actually what I was doing for my first job was programming a database that was to track all of the life science equipment and the refurbishment cycles that it had, when it was going to fly, when it was going to come back, and how long the refurbishment cycle was, and when it would be ready to fly again. Pretty boring, actually. But that was my first job. And then from there, I went over to another contractor, and I was a tech writer. And that, since I had a physics degree, I qualified to be an engineer. So when an engineering position opened up, I went into that. And I was an engineer for the longest period of time. And then in 2000, I think it was when I moved into a management position.
And I guess at some point, this took you beyond the U.S. and into Europe?
Yes, I went over to the European Space Agency in the Netherlands 2 or 3 times for meetings and conferences, things like that.
So that's pretty cool. So you worked there for quite some time. So
about 21 years, right?
Do you have an opinion, or do you know what has happened to our space program here?
Well. I don't even know if I have to talk about that.
Okay.
Because it's very political. It's very political, and it's something that I find kind of irritating. So I don't know if I want to go on a big rant, but a lot of it is political, and I think we'll see the space program coming back. But in reality, what I will say is NASA has evolved to become what is known as a mature bureaucracy. And they are no longer efficient. Back in the Apollo days, they were lean and mean, and they could get these things done quickly. And now they are overburdened with bureaucrats, and most of the work gets done by the contractors. And a majority of the NASA people do no more than harass the contractors to give them all kinds of reports and what they called metrics. That it was really just a big bureaucratic organization that was very expensive to pay all of these bureaucrats rather nice salaries, where they were not doing as much of the real work. Like, for example, you hear about these government shutdowns. And we went through a few of them when I was working there. And guess what? We launched shuttles, we landed shuttles, we kept the space program running just fine when the government was shut down. Now, NASA would have a core of people who would still be working. But it really said something, that the space program kept running just fine when the government shut down. And most of the civil servants were home sitting around the pool with a margarita, you know.
Well, there's something to say about duty and commitment to one's work. I think in a lot of angles, America has lost that perspective, and it's kind of sad, to see, from my perspective of being a big space fan and watching NASA from its beginnings and to current.
See, though.
But on the other hand, it seems like, one dysfunction creates an opportunity for another when we look at the commercialization of space. What are some of your thoughts about
private businesses taking over?
Yeah, private businesses taking over, like Elon Musk and
Did you
Elon Musk? I think he's awesome. I love him to pieces. He is really he's back in that spirit of the early NASA, where you have goals and you work really, really hard and you get a really brilliant team working with you with the same goals, and you accomplish all kinds of amazing things. What he has done is incredible. And I am so excited that he is out there doing what he does, that really is the future of the space program. Because as long as it's a government program, it's really not making any money. It's just costing the taxpayers a bunch of money. And once they can commercialize it, where it's profitable and becomes an industry in itself, that is the ultimate goal. And if you think about Star Trek or, say, the movies, the Alien series, where they're out there mining asteroids and they're doing all these things, it needs to be commercialized so it makes money. We can't just keep putting space vehicles up there and doing experiments that aren't really making a lot of money and sending the bill to the taxpayers.
Yeah, I feel
and
like
that's probably one of the reasons, where it kind of winds down.
Yeah, I feel like it's great that we've had these exploratory missions through the solar system to check out pictures of the different planets and to land on Mars, and I hate, this is the part where I get a little frustrated, and I talk to Solana and say, there are interesting landmarks on Mars, but yet we send these rovers into areas that are desolate, and another lander.
So are we seeing everything, or just what they want us to see?
Selective viewing in a lot of these things.
Well, that gets into another one of my favorite subjects, and that's, of course, the UFOs. And all the other things that are going on out there that no one will talk about, and yet it seems like most curious, intelligent people can pretty well see through all the fog and tell that there is really something going on there. And there's some pretty interesting stuff going on as far as Mars. There's a lot of people who don't believe we ever landed on the moon, and I do believe we landed on the moon. I have no doubts on that.
Me too.
But I did read in a book one time that the moon landing was filmed on a sound stage, because there were so many UFOs watching at the time that they couldn't put that on live TV.
So they had to substitute parts of it to make it more
kind of like
censored.
Half-truths in a way. We did go to the moon, but we had to cover this part up so people wouldn't freak out. But, we did go to the moon. But, that kind of thing.
So it sounds like it was a big pageant show for the UFOs to watch. I'm like, oh, look, the monkeys are landing.
There was a show that came out that I enjoyed a lot called Capricorn 1. A fascinating movie where they had all these plans to go to Mars, and they finally came down to the last calculation, like, oh, we can't do this. We can't afford to, can't do it. And so they were going to fake it, and that's just, I'll leave it up to the audience to go watch that movie. But ultimately, in the end, it was like kind of big cover-up of the trying to go and not going. And so.
Well, I had wondered, because Kennedy had said, oh, we're going to go to the moon, and I thought the whole space race, now I wasn't born at this time, I'm looking back at what I just uncovered through my own research. It seemed like it was a political thing, like we need to get there before the Russians to prove that we're American, we're awesome, we've got what it takes to do. And then maybe he found out, like she said, there were so many UFOs watching, and then he was going to maybe try to release that, and then they axed him for it. So I wondered if that's...
everything... just about every technological thing that is done, including space exploration, there's somebody watching that for using it as a weapon and weaponization. And that goes back to what you just said about beating the Russians to the moon. What an outpost, right? What a strategic advantage to have a military base on the moon. So it all really cycles back to that. and even the justification for having a space program. So much of it does relate to the military, and so many of the missions that they flew were military satellites and things that related to that.
Well, all right. Well, we're at the top of the hour, and so let's take our break. And man, we could definitely dive into some more UFO talk because
we'll get into everything.
Yeah,
Don't worry, we'll get to your writing. We'll get to the other stuff. So
I'm excited. I'm settle down, Jim. Settle down. And so let's take our break, and we'll be right back in a little bit. So stand by.
You are listening to Spaceboy Universe on the SBU network.
Explore the universe with Spaceboy and Sir Lana.
This is author Jordan Root. You are listening to the Spaceboy Universe.
This is K28, and I'm listening to Spaceboy Universe.
Hi, y'all. This is Lori calling from Texas, and I love listening to Spaceboy Universe.
Hey, this is Dave Cruz, host of Beyond the Strange, and you're listening to Spaceboy Universe.
This is Wendy. I'm listening to Spaceboy Universe.
Hey, y'all. This is Lorelai DeLille. I listen to Spaceboy Universe. Don't you? Tell your mom and them I said hi.
You are listening to Spaceboy Universe. Here are your hosts, Spaceboy and Sir Lon.
As always, Sir Lon and I have this pact that we try not to talk during the break too much about the subject matter. But, when you have
it's just Elon Musk.
Well, when you have such an awesome guest as we have tonight, it is hard not to discuss things. And we were talking about Mr. Musk and his, wanting to do, I guess, right by humanity. Wouldn't you agree, Marcia?
Yes. From what I've read in his biography that was so well done, you really got a good, clear glimpse of who he is. And he is very dedicated to improving the world. That he's doing it in a way that is different than others, but there's plenty of room for different ways to do it. And as far as creating green energy sources and getting into the space exploration, getting to Mars, these are things that are important. And he is passionate about them and pursuing them, and a very, very intelligent person. He's a workaholic. He doesn't expect anything from his people that he's not willing to do himself. And just a very amazing individual. If there were one person that I could meet these days, I think he would be the one that I would like to meet.
I do too like his work ethic. I mean, he is dedicated to what he does and believes what he does, and it's nice to see genuine people like him. And it does give me a sense of hope because he just wants to do right. And he's not one of these evil corporate overlords, or even like when we did a history show about the turn of the century
Titans of Industry,
exactly, like Rockefeller and all them. It's not about the buck; it's about the human, and I like that. It's something to live by.
Yes, and he does not suffer fools. He does not put up with that, and I really appreciate that. Having been a manager myself, I can just cheer him on with some of his policies and not putting up with people that are lazy or stupid. It's like, we are here to get a job done, do it right, or go work somewhere else.
Right. It goes back to, what we were talking about earlier, where NASA has kind of lost that sight, that vision, if you will, of the commitment,
like you said, if they're just going to be bureaucratic paper pushers and contract harassers, they're no different from the other parts of our government now. So why not privatize it into people who are passionate and dedicated to it, who may have the money or can get the money without having to lobby and do underhanded, under-the-table things to get it, or take it from us, from those who don't want to contribute, or, then leave it to the ones who do. I really think maybe that's the only thing that's going to save our part of being out there is private companies taking over.
And a big one that I was involved in when I was at NASA is the safety side of things, because most of my time at NASA was spent with the safety area. And as such, I got to see, talk about dirty little secrets, some of those where they lost the Challenger and the Columbia, where it was political. A lot of it was political. And safety did not have the final word. And both shuttles that we lost were lost to documented catastrophic hazards that were supposed to have a certain number of controls to keep them from happening. But both the O-ring situation with the Challenger and the insulation on the external tank issue with Columbia were documented hazards, but they had happened before and did not cause a great big problem. So they decided, these aren't big hazards after all, but they were playing Russian roulette. And eventually it did cause loss of a vehicle and of astronauts' lives. And just seeing the inside process of how they would rationalize this safety was one of the things that just really drove me crazy. when I was working there, how they would just pretend that it was not a real hazard anymore when it truly was. I read in one book about the Challenger where it was saying originally when they were designing the space shuttle, the engineers said that the solid rocket boosters would fail like 1 in every 26 missions or something like that. Well, then the upper management people got a hold of those figures sometime after we'd flown a few missions, and they came up with the figure that no, we'd only lose one every 200 and something missions. And the way they calculated that, I'm sure you've heard of lies, damn lies, and statistics. Well, that other figure was based, it was success, the probability of success based on previous successes. It was not based on the reliability of the components of the solid rocket boosters. It was only based on the fact that they had gotten away with it a few times.
They're gambling.
They thought they'd continue to get away with it. And it just blows my mind. And so with a private company, commercial space, they're not going to play those silly games. Mm-hmm. And they're going to have the money to look after safety. And if they don't, they're going to be sued off the planet. And so they better get it right. They can't play these silly games.
Now, my only concern is, because you brought up Aliens, which is one of my favorite franchises, by the way, is as we head towards the future, we deal with a company like Weyland-Yutani, and, it's wanting to bring something past quarantine back for a profit, for that kind of future. So, on the flip side, I worry about. I guess what I'm trying to get at is sometimes you need a balance between the two. The people versus the corporate. But no, I totally understand where you're coming from on the NASA thing and the Challenger loss, and because I watched a documentary not too long ago, and they were showing clips of the actual failure, and I was just like blown away. Of the neglect, the oversight on what was going through a lot of these people that were in charge, and not putting safety first, and it's just terrible when I look back upon that time.
Right, and like it said in the biographical sketch that you read at the beginning of the program, I was in East Texas picking up debris from Columbia.
Oh, my goodness.
So I did see the aftermath of that accident. And it was very, one of the most memorable experiences of my life in so many ways. And it was so heartbreaking, some of the things that we found out there in the field.
And another thing that was kind of so horrific about it was they were still alive after the explosion.
With Challenger.
Yeah,
I'm talking about Columbia.
Columbia. But now I've gone to Challenger. I guess I get them both kind of combined because they're just both tragic in their own right, and both sad moments that
But they're not what halted the space program. It wasn't because we no longer have the resources or the equipment anymore.
I guess you're looking.
Could we have kept going with the shuttles we had, or did they need to be
decommissioned?
Yeah, decommissioned and then reconfigured or re-engineered.
Well, it was 70s technology,
mm-hmm.
and the original design of the shuttle was not done as they had hoped because of budget reasons. It was supposed to be more, what would the word be, where they just fly it again more easily, but they had to compromise on budget, and then they came up with these other things like the solid rocket boosters and whatever, so that they could amortize the expense of the space program over the years instead of putting it all into the development cost, if that makes sense.
Oh, yeah.
So, and it was 70s technology. And they did upgrade it over the years as best they could, but it just finally got to that point where it was time for a new vehicle.
And we end the shuttle missions and decommission the shuttles, but I guess there's a gray area because to me I think the next big thing is the Orion, but it seems like okay, where's a shuttle like replacement in that situation? Where can you fill in the blanks on that for us?
Well, what's kind of scary about that is we still have space station up there, of course, but we don't really even have a vehicle unless Musk comes up with one, and maybe he has. I have not actually kept up with this that well, but primarily our communications with the ISS and getting astronauts up there and back has been through Russian vehicles. Now, I don't know about you, but I'm not sure I really trust them too much.
Yeah, I mean, it's like calling a Russian Uber to pick us up and take
us. Right. And I remember years ago when we were on maybe a little bit harsher. Well, I remember the Cold War. Okay, so I used to just in my little science fiction writer's imagination could really picture that it wouldn't be that hard for the Russians to hijack the International Space Station because they had so many of their tentacles into it. And when we no longer could get there with the space shuttle and we were dependent on them for going up and coming back, it just looked like a rather sketchy situation to me.
Reminds me of the movie 2010, where
Space.
The
unofficial sequel.
The unofficial sequel to the Space 2001. Where it had a more Cold War atmosphere, where we had gone and we were on the Russian space.
Well, that's because they said we're going to go check out your property. If you don't want an incident, you better come with us.
Exactly. But yeah, it's just I know what you mean. It's like hey, I've got a job, but I don't have a car to get to my job, and I got to go rely on the guy down the street, and he's not the most friendliest person to go hitch a ride. But it leads into what a lot of people think, and I'm kind of interested to hear your point of view on this, is the secret space program.
Yes, undoubtedly. And believe me, I just thoroughly eat up all of the documentaries on TV about such things. I've read quite a few books. Have you read any of Stephen Greer's books?
Oh, yeah.
I've listened to him, a lot of his lectures.
Okay, so you probably the same thing as what's in his book. And I'm fascinated by it. I'm absolutely fascinated. And I have no trouble believing it. I really don't. Because with the Saturn V that we had way back in the 60s that got us to the moon, it had incredible capability. And there's no reason that we couldn't have gone on the military side and done a whole lot of things that no one else knew about. And that's not even considering a little help from our friends, the ETs.
Assuming Werner von Braun already knew them before he got here. Over with.
Well, he claims they helped him.
Yeah.
He claims that they helped. I don't doubt it.
See, that's a whole thing that we're interested in. We've talked to several people. We talked to recently, John DeSouza, Steve Colburn. We've talked to we were gonna talk to McClellan, but I don't think he's doing very well. Who's we talked to the other guy? So we've talked to several people in that same field as Greer. John DeSouza, former FBI, says that they are not from our neighborhood. They're not from our solar system. They're not even from this universe. They're interdimensional. So they're coming from, they're coming through their whatever technology they have, or it could be the dabbling that they're doing with these hadron colliders, where they're trying to use dark matter and open portals to, I don't know, Lovecraftian weirdness.
Yes, absolutely. Have you heard of or perhaps talked to Corey Goode? Does that name
we
ring a bell?
we know of him.
Yeah, we know of him. I don't.
And
think
David Icke, Corey Good.
I don't think we've reached out to Corey, but he would be an excellent guest.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, and you know what's really, really strange? There was probably an Ancient Aliens or something on TV a few weeks ago, and my daughter was in the other room watching that, and I was on the computer, and as it was about the secret space program and everything, and they had Corey Good on the TV, and they were talking to him, and just as they said his name on the TV, he sent me a LinkedIn request, and it blew my mind. It blew my mind. Just as they were saying his name on the TV, I'm seeing his name on my computer, and he sent me a LinkedIn request. It's like, holy cow. I have no idea why he picked me out of all the people out there. I feel like I'm pretty obscure. And I was in such shock, I have never even gotten back in touch with him and asked him why. But I thought, boy, the next book I'm writing is going to have a whole lot of Area 51 stuff and everything in it. I thought, maybe I can get him as a consultant on all this. But, yeah, go figure.
That's very cool.
Very strange. But but if he would basically connect with me, a nobody, on LinkedIn, I'll bet you could get him as a guest.
Well, we'll have to look into that because I know our audience is thirsty.
We are
familiar
with his work, and then along that tier of David Icke and who's the guy we talked to in California, wrote all those books. We talked to him about the moon, and we talked to him
you're talking about
Preston Dennett.
Preston Dennett.
We talked to him. We've talked to some of the, not the big names like that, but we've seen people like Travis Walton from a distance.
Yeah, I got to shake his hand.
You got to shake his hand.
We have a question from one of our space cadets, Marcia. It's from Yeg Mager. Has you get my tongue back in order? Have you heard of the Dark Knight satellite? And what do you think about it?
Is it a space blanket?
I have heard of it, but I haven't researched it. I tend to keep a very open mind, and until something, I'm kind of the opposite, I guess, of a skeptic. Until someone proves to me that it's not true, I will put it in reserve in a possibility, and I've heard of it, but like I say, I haven't heard enough about it to really have a strong opinion one way or the other. But I see no reason why it's not possible.
That's a great way to look at it, because I think we both are on the same page where we come across information and we kind of reserve our, we're not ready to make a decision on something and until we get a lot of the facts in and to kind of formulate. I mean, we'll have some ideas of what we think about it, but until it's finally said and done, it's, that's kind of a good way to look at it.
Well, and that's how I got into astrology, because you can bet when I was studying physics that they told us in the astronomy classes and whatever that astrology was no more than myth and superstition and it was impossible and blah, blah, blah. And I, of course, believed them. And then later I was writing a book, and this was one that is still in a box in my closet. I haven't actually published it. But the main character was a physicist, and I thought, okay, let's make his ex-wife as annoying as we possibly can and make her obsessed with astrology, okay? So in order to develop that character, I had to learn something about astrology. And as I was researching it, I discovered that it worked. And I was really surprised, but I had no real problem with it. It's like, okay, this works. They lied. It really does work. I have no idea how. Probably something related to quantum mechanics and the matter-consciousness interface. But when I have so much anecdotal evidence that it works, statistically, you can't make this stuff up. The odds are totally against that it can work as well as it does. We might not be able to prove it in the lab exactly what kind of energy or vibrations causes this, but the fact that it works time and time again is enough for me. And I get reconverted to astrology every day, I swear, because I just see things that totally defy probability. You just can't make that stuff up.
So, are you currently doing readings, or how are you
Yeah.
doing? Yeah, tell us a little bit about
Yeah,
that.
I have a website. It's valkyrieastrology.com, and I have a lot of information out there for people that want to learn about astrology. And I compiled most of it into a book called Hubita's Guide to Basic Astrology. That's kind of my mystic name, Hubita, that kind of has a story behind it. But yes, I am a practicing astrologer. I sell a whole bunch of different computerized reports, and I do personalized readings. So that is my supplement to my retirement income.
So you were, we have mentioned, I guess the first break when you were first coming on, you found out that I was a Scorpio, and Solana is. I'm sorry.
That person's married to.
Yeah, that lady over there across from me on the other mic is an. You said an Aries.
Aries.
And you, what was your first cursory thoughts on our relationship?
It's a really lively, a lot of energy in that combination. That Scorpio is a water sign and Aries is a fire sign. And what happens with fire and water? They're very
gets put
different. Exactly. Or vaporized. If the case may be.
I might have threatened to vaporize him today.
Today? I can name other occasions.
And I have a daughter who's a Scorpio, and she was married to an Aries for a while, but not anymore. And it's a very interesting, very energetic combination because they are so different, and yet the ancient ruler of Scorpio is Mars, and the ongoing modern ruler of Aries is Mars. And we're talking about a lot of energy in that planet that rules them both. And of course now Scorpio as a modern ruler has Pluto thrown in there. But it's just a lot of strong-willed, very interesting people to come together, and it's a real credit when they can get along, because sometimes they can't because they are so different.
I don't know how we make it work, but I kind of feel like, well, I'm going to take you out with me.
Well, I always try to avoid Thursdays with her because that's throat punch
Thursdays followed by fist fight Fridays.
But, I think that I recognize that energy that you speak of before we started doing this show. And I we would be in front of people, and they would find us very entertaining. And so at that moment, it was like I kind of said, this would be a great show. And then I kind of snuck her into this whole process that we've created now. And she always says that if I'd known then what this would have become, I probably would have told you no. But but now she's kind of like, wouldn't you agree?
I have learned more doing this show, like doing research, talking to people like you, and when we do a topic, when we don't have a guest, doing research, I've learned more than when I was in college. Because I've been looking at subjects they don't teach you in college, or if they do teach you, like stuff like Tesla, like I never knew a lot of the stuff that he was actually doing, what he was trying to do. And we were also told Edison was this great inventor. Well, turns out, he was a good businessman. He's a bit of a douche, so.
Yeah, absolutely. Tesla got the shaft. Yeah. Totally. He wanted free energy for everybody, and guess what? They didn't want it to be free.
Yeah, they wanted to. How do we charge for this kind of thing?
As long as we've got human greed, we'll never be free. None of us. So, but
exactly, and that's probably one of my pet peeves politically is the corporatism that we're caught into right now, where there's all this collusion, and that really just irritates me about more than anything. And I kind of avoid the political scene because I get so mad at everything that's going on.
Yeah, it's very easy to get mad.
The average working person is not who's running this country.
No.
And whoever came up with that brilliant decision in the Supreme Court that corporations were people. Oh, really? You think? Yeah.
Yeah, there's a lot of frustration going around.
We the people, when the founding fathers wrote "We the people," I don't think they were thinking corporations. Thank you very much.
No, but I wondered though. You know, Tesla was said, or we looking back, he was trying to get into that, tap into the Schumann resonance. Is that a real thing?
Oh, I'm sure it was. He was a whole lot smarter than I am.
Because I wonder if that's what our ancient civilizations were doing when they were building all these pyramids and ziggurats in a time where they could not have communicated across the world with each other. Like, did they all know something instinctively, or was there someone coming to visit them saying, hey, you need to build these things and you can heal yourselves, or you can do this with it, or you can tap into this energy? So I kind of wonder if that's what's really going on, and then they wiped that from history so we couldn't find out about it.
Yeah, it makes sense to me. I'm with you on that one, 100%. That they had technologies way back when that we either have not found yet or have been suppressed. There are so many patents that get bought up by big corporations and put in the file cabinet or possibly even the shredder to protect their interests. Just like people have discovered alternatives to gasoline to run cars. But, gee, you think the automakers and the oil industry might have a problem with that?
Well, that's
so
what you're saying.
Buy up the patent, you know?
Well, you said, you mentioned Dr. Stephen Greer. Well, he had been on this crusade campaign. It's like, you've got something that will create 0-point energy, clean, free energy. Bring it to us, but you better bring your A game, and it better work, and it better not be a gimmick, because he talked about all the people who have put one over on them. And I'm like, but Dr. Greer, it's never going to see the light of day because somebody wants to profit. He's got his intentions in the right place, but reality will not match up with his vision, unfortunately.
Exactly. There's too much greed. That is totally the problem that is holding us back all around.
All right. Well, hold tight. We're at the bottom of the hour, and so let's take our next break, and we'll continue this awesome conversation we're having tonight. Our guest, Marcha Fox, and I'm Spaceboy, and that's... Who are you over there?
Oh, it doesn't matter anymore.
Anyway, she's the fabulous Solana, so don't touch that dial.
You are listening to Spaceboy Universe on the SBU network.
Explore the universe with Spaceboy and Sirlana.
Hey, Solana!
What?
If Spaceboy Universe was cheese, would you eat it? Come on now, it's a simple question.
Maybe?
SpaceboyUniverse.com. Greetings, I'm Space Boy. I started writing music at an early age, inspired by such synth stylings of the Pet Shop Boys, Erasure, Kraftwerk, Art of Noise, and 8-Bit. I have crafted my work into a hybrid of synth pop with modern electronica rock music of today, with pounding beats, high-energy arpeggios, soothing orchestral moves, and rock and roll! Space Boy will surely be a part of anyone's music collection, so head on over to spaceboymusic.com and get you some cool stuff.
You are listening to Space Boy Universe. Here are your hosts, Space Boy and Sir Lana.
And we're back with our guest, Marcha Fox. So, Marcha, you've had this cool NASA career. So while you were doing that, you said you were really on this journey to be a sci-fi writer. So were you able to get that started while you were still working, or what parts of your job influenced you into your writing?
Oh, so far, mainly the basic aerospace background. That in the science fiction I write, I try and keep the science as accurate as possible, and of course there's some extrapolation there, but it's got to have credibility.
Right.
And since science fiction inspired me so much when I was a young person to pursue a technical career, at that time when I was reading those books, I was hungry to learn some science, and I was always disappointed that they really didn't have any science in them. There was a science premise, but you never really learned anything from them. So I try and include some science and some engineering and things like that in my books as part of the plot, so that as people are reading them and being entertained by the story, they're also learning a little bit along the line. I have authentic science in there. And quite a few of my reviews have mentioned that. I have at least 2 high school teachers I'm aware of who are science teachers, and they have my books in their classroom for the kids to check out as extra credit reading. And I even put together a book that I call a compendium that has a section in there for homeschoolers and for science teachers and anybody who maybe like library reading programs, where it has a whole section where it goes through the different chapters in all 4 of the books of the science principles, and it gives them discussion ideas. And if they wanted to have kids read these for extra credit in the classroom, they could possibly use that compendium to find themselves a extra credit project or something like that. So underlying all of the books is the science and the engineering, and a lot of the NASA experience came into that. For example, in the second book, I go into fault tree analysis, or actually, no, that was the third book, and how you determine the different ways that something can fail and the way you make sure that you have controls. And in the second book, they were building a heat exchanger, and so I go a little bit into the principle of that, not laboriously eyes glaze over point, but just enough so people understand the principle behind an air conditioner. So that is largely where the NASA experience came in, as well as just the experience of working in a bureaucracy, learning more about people and governments, and getting a glimpse of potential evil empires and such as that.
I'm sure that's amazing fodder for fiction and science fiction, just the daily life of being there in that environment.
Yeah.
You almost couldn't not write a book about it.
I mean, I imagine walking the halls. I mean, just the inspiration. I mean, you're at a place that it inspired you as a youngster, and then getting there, to draw on those firsthand accounts.
Yes, it really was. There were some moments that were really incredible, and I would sit there and think that it was almost like a dream that I was finally living that. For example, on the 25th anniversary of the Apollo 11 mission, I was sitting at a console in a room that supported mission control. It was called the Mission Evaluation Room, or the MER, and I was sitting in there supporting a mission. And here it was, the 25th anniversary of Apollo, and that was also the time when the Shoemaker-Levy comet crashed into Jupiter, and we were watching that on the TV in the MER. And I just taking all this in, thought, this is so cool. I'm so excited that I'm here. So that was one of the definite high points. There definitely were parts that I will never forget, and someday on my to-do list, which is incredibly long, but I will write my memoirs of the various experiences, because there were some pretty amazing things.
I'm sure there's some things that you ultimately can't tell now, but in your memoirs will be pretty exciting when you pen that.
Yes, and of course my most recent book has a lot about Area 51 in it. It's a backstory to one of the other books, but it's a standalone. But the main character in there is a telepathic walking plant who's one of my characters in all of the books. But he gets captured when their UFO, if you will, accidentally lands on Earth, and they get captured, and he gets sent to Area 51, and this NASA astrobiologist is studying him. So that was one place, too, where my life science experience at NASA came in really handy. Even though botany is not my forte, I had to do a whole lot of research about botany in order to write this book. And I've gotten at least one review where I basically was criticized because there was too much science in it. And I just laughed. I thought, well, what happened to the science in science fiction? Hello? Why shouldn't there be science in there? But most people loved it because it made it sound so feasible.
Right.
It brings it alive, and any true nerd is going to eat up the science. So anyone who's not a nerd probably shouldn't read my books because there's going to be science in there. Sorry.
Do you have any pet peeves when you go to read, or rather, mostly probably if you watch any sci-fi movies, TV, like, I heard that The Martian was pretty decent as far as the science. Some of it was a bit far-fetched.
Like
the storms don't happen like that, but they had to do it for, to
move the
story along. But do you have any kind of like, when you see that, you're like, oh, it doesn't work like that,
Well, number one, sound of explosions in outer space. There is no sound because there is no air. So that is probably my number one pet peeve, where I roll my eyes and throw up my hands and go, when are you people going to figure this out? And then another one would be when they're on like an asteroid or something. And, of course, I forgive Han Solo and Star Wars and George Lucas for this because I love the series. But you don't get on a little asteroid and have Earth-like gravity. It's, you're going to be bouncing all over the place. So there's a few things like that, or just even lack of air and the necessity of having air pressure and just all of these types of things that people can just, if they don't understand the science side, they'll make some major goofs when they're writing. I read this one book and it was so horrible. I wrote this nasty review on my blog about it because it was so bad with the science. He had like F-15s flying in space, okay? It's like, really? And on and on. It was, and then another pet peeve is people are writing stories that are, happening in 2080 or something like that, and they're still using paper. Really? Paper?
See,
maybe they're just old school hipsters.
I agree with you because, I recently got to binge watch the new Battlestar Galactica, and part of my pet peeve in watching sci-fi is that, it's supposed to be kind of futuristic looking, and what I hate is when they use common everyday objects, or in the show they're dressed in ties and suits that you would see today. And I understand if they're trying to cut corners in a budget kind of thing to get a show on, but it really kind of it takes away from the sci-fi enjoyment of the fantasy angle of getting into something like that, when they're using things that are commonplace. And
well, the opposite side of that would be something like Red Dwarf, which is a comedy where they are wearing like regular stuff.
Well, in that it was meant
love.
to, that I could take it as a comedy, but when you have something more serious, a drama-like thing, it's harder for me to get into something like that.
You want it to be more realistic.
I do want to get
the science,
and that might be some of my bias because of originally watching Battlestar Galactica as a kid, but in there they didn't have the comparison, but so that's one of my pet peeves, and I understand you don't want to oversaturate the techness of a story, but at the same time you don't want to water it down.
A Star Trek book, like I've tried to do for a few times, is like, oh my gosh, that is dense with science fiction and technology, more so than the TV shows, because they can write anything. There's no budget when you're writing, but trying to keep up with the cast of characters and the technology and the scientific terms and that was challenging. I'm like, I can't believe I'm reading a Star Trek based book and I'm having difficulty.
Would that be like Titan, or was it?
Yeah, Star Trek Titan series.
Yeah, with
Riker.
Well, what did you think of the Orville?
Now, she hasn't seen it, and
he'll take this question.
I'll take this question.
He'll take this question.
Now,
I can't stand Seth MacFarlane.
I think that the big maybe complaint was that they were worried that it was going to be like this space meets Family Guy kind of thing, and and it has its moments where it's comedic, and you definitely see Seth's comedy part angle, and I think they're really trying to gravitate to something more fun as Star Trek used to be. So I don't think I've really passed a verdict on it yet, but I've enjoyed this first season. There have been a few moments where it's like, can we kind of gravitate away from that, or but I'm willing to give it a chance, and sure enough, there's going to be another season. So that's kind of where I'm at now. I'm enjoying the ride, and what's been great is that you've had a lot of Star Trek alumni come on recently. Even some well-known actors have gone on, and so I'm looking forward to seeing the second season. Even Robert Picardo was in this first season,
who I love,
and she loves Robert Picardo,
yeah,
because he's bald. But anyway,
he's just a sweetheart. But I also am not watching Star Trek Discovery. Shocker.
Which that's another show I've watched, and I understand where people are coming from, but the way it ended up, and I still don't want to give it away, is that it really kind of makes it to where, okay, this is the Star Trek I'm familiar with now after going through that first season. So, but what are your thoughts on the Orville, and have you seen Star Trek Discovery?
I actually haven't seen the Star Trek one yet, but the Orville, I got quite a kick out of it. Mm-hmm. There were some really good moments there and humor, and you can see that there is a strong satirical undertone to it. And then some of the issues that they address is maybe subtle to some, but they really pull in some of these hot issues, and it makes it interesting the way they do it. It's very, very clever.
Right.
And I have enjoyed it. I look forward to watching it, and it's not like it's going to be my number one favorite show or anything, but I think what they've done is very clever and original. I like the humor, yet they do have a little bit of a serious side to it, and I'll be interested to see how it matures in the next season.
Mm-hmm. It's kind of like
they kind of they develop a life of their own, and they kind of evolve, and so I'm looking forward to what it ultimately does.
Well, if I can compare it to Star Trek in general, like Next Generation and definitely Deep Space Nine.
Well, Seth loves Trek.
Yeah, he's in that. But what I was going to say is that, those first 2 or 3 seasons, they were finding their own. And then after that third season, like in Deep Space Nine, when Worf comes on and he's a part of their crew now, it really kind of takes off. So I'm hoping in the same angle with the Orville is that, they're going to find, kind of getting their footing, and the storylines will get better. And the fact of the pedigree that's involved in that particular show, it gives me hope that the shows are going to be getting better and better. Recently on one of the shows, they had one where his first officer, his ex-wife, becomes a deity to a culture, and I thought that was a great kind of drawback. That could have easily fit in any kind of Star Trek show, and it was serious, but it had some comedic moments. But I thought that was well written, and I like you, I have high hopes. It's not like my number one favorite, but it is enjoyable to watch, and I guess only time will tell and see how it goes.
Yeah, that's very much my thoughts of it. I look forward to the next season and see where it goes. Mm-hmm. The one that really comes back to mind, two of them come to mind right now, and one of them is when they were captured and they were locked up in a zoo.
Oh, yeah.
That one really cracked me up. But it's so true, when you think on the animal rights side of things and where that's going, and I'm a big animal lover, and I could relate to that. I'm very sympathetic to the way people exploit animals, and so that one resonated with me. And another one was when they found those people that were isolated in that spacecraft that they thought was their whole world. That was good. That had a lot of good points behind there. They're thought-provoking when you go to the next layer. Mm-hmm. Anyone who doesn't really take it to the next layer of what they're really spoofing or doing a satire on is just not going to get that show. It's more intellectual than it appears.
Oh yeah, so I agree with you. It's like I said, it's got so much promise there, and I'm really looking forward to pick back up. And
still talking about the Orville?
Yeah, the Orville. I know you're
I'm sorry, I cannot stand Seth MacFarlane.
It's been
I can't stand him.
long time since I've talked about
It's been a long
Walking
time.
Dead, and don't even get me started on that. Talking about Enterprise there,
that lame
the
theme song,
which recently I found out that it wasn't even an original piece of music. They took it off Patch Adams for Star Trek Enterprise, and I was like, "What the?"
Talk about phoning it in.
They really phoned it in. But that was another series that got good, like at the end, and then Paramount said, "You know what? We're going to cancel this," and that's always a disappointment. But what other sci-fi shows are on your list that you're watching, or some of your favorites? I'd be curious to know.
Oh, I really don't watch a whole lot of TV. But I like Ancient Aliens. I love the History Channel generally because they tend to have a lot of this weird stuff on there that nobody else will touch on the network. And all the UFO shows that they have, and I just enjoy all of that very, very much. And I don't believe everything they say. Sometimes I'm just sitting there rolling my eyes thinking, oh, no. On some of these UFO recovery shows where it was obviously a DOD satellite deorbiting and they were going to retrieve it. It wasn't a freaking UFO. Hello, people, but they thought it was. And so there's some that I can just kind of wonder about. And if I were younger and a little bit more energetic, I would consider signing up with MUFON. I am not interested in this stuff. I think that would be a blast. But I'm beyond the trooping through the woods type of thing that I'm beyond that, unfortunately. After all, I'm a baby boomer, and even though I don't feel as old as I am, and my body reminds me from time to time. So, but I would love to work with MUFON. That would be very, very cool.
Well, what is your take on certain things that happen out there, like sightings, like things like the Phoenix Lights or the Black Triangles? Do you think that's us doing that as some kind of experiment and letting us believe it's extraterrestrial, or is it something else? Do you have an opinion on that?
Well, I'm inclined to believe what Stephen Greer said in one of his books, where some of them are ours, where we have back-engineered alien craft, and we have been able to do some of these cool things ourselves. So I believe some of them are ours, and yet there are things that we have not achieved yet. For example, maybe the cloaking capability or the real
phasing,
interdimensional travel side. We may not have quite conquered that yet. But I feel like what we see out there is a mix, and especially the ones that are spotted around areas where we know that there's secret bases, like with Arizona and New Mexico and Nevada, all there right around Area 51. It's a military base, and I think that a lot of them are undoubtedly ours, And we probably do have some kind of partnership with these other aliens, and they may come in there and say, hey, let's go have a beer. I don't know. But it's hard to say. But I think they're a mix. I think most of what we see are probably ours, but they were built with technology that we got from them, and there are some out there that are them. And I think that, like, the abductions and stuff is undoubtedly probably them. That's another interesting subject right there. So,
well, Greer said, if you see something and you're able to be close enough to see it, if it's got rivets and seams and bolts, then we built it. If it's smooth and has no seams, you can't tell how it's put together, then it's them.
Yes, that makes perfect sense. I love the Rendlesham Forest story.
Oh, yeah.
Don't you love that one where it landed on a military base? Oh,
that's their Area 51 story. Yeah, and just love listening to their commander of the base and the two that really were right up close and personal with that UFO. Mm-hmm. How can you argue with people like that? And some people really shook up by that experience.
Yeah, I mean, that Pendleton, I think his name was similar to that. And the way
Colonel
he
Holt
touched it. And they had that binary code implanted in his mind.
You got to download.
And until he wrote it down, and how can you write down 6 pages of binary code from memory? I mean, really.
Right.
Even if you were a programmer. And he writes that down, and then they translate it, and it actually says something about Earth being watched. How can you disbelieve people that were military? They certainly knew the difference between a UFO and an airplane, and to me, those are among the most credible witnesses.
They kept writing it off as, oh, well, that's that lighthouse over on the coast, and and they're like, no, lighthouse don't come down in front of you and land.
It's the old story of swamp gas all over again, and
But what's funny is this is happening on foreign soil, but it's an American base that we had there for a while.
Yes, exactly. Cold War
stuff, yeah. That's what intrigues me, because we were like running it, and it's like the English didn't really have anything, from my understanding, involvement with it. They're just like, here's a base, y'all do what you think, do whatever there, and then they'll have these experiences there.
Well, it's really interesting how the UFOs show up at bases like that had nuclear weapons, and they'll show up around nuclear power plants.
And switch them off.
And they seem to really be monitoring what we're doing with nuclear energy.
There's one of them that buzzed it and switched them off.
Yeah.
Or reprogrammed.
Or even the missiles, the ICBMs, where they've played around messing with them before, both here and with Russia.
That's pretty weird. They're like, well, we're playing with your toys here.
Yeah, they're laughing at us. They're laughing at us because in so many ways our technology is so lethal, but it is so primitive.
Mm-hmm.
And they're up and laughing and saying, you think you got the world under control? Well, let's turn a few of your little gadgets off and see how you like that.
Yeah, that is very cocky of them, isn't it?
Well, I think they're trying to keep us humble. We're the cocky ones.
Mm-hmm. I think they're like the
We're
Vulcans.
the ones that are obnoxious.
They're like the Vulcans that are trying to keep us from going out into space and causing havoc with our ape brains.
Well, it's like we've heard the story before. Like when you have a civilization such as ours, that's such
we're
chaos
destructive to each other.
And just very destructive. And I would be very
worried
as a spacefaring race looking at somebody like Earthlings, like they're on the verge of getting out here, and it's not.
They don't kill each other first, and they're coming after us.
Exactly. So I would, imagine they've got us under some kind of quarantine, if you will. Hey, I'm looking at the time. It is the top of the hour, but we'll pick this up right after we come back. So everybody, we're just having a good time. Hope you're having a good time, Space Cadets.
We are.
Yes, we're jamming it out here. So we're going to continue our conversation. So don't go anywhere.
listening to Spaceboy Universe on the SBU network.
Explore the universe with Spaceboy and Sir Lana.
Get your game on Spaceboy Universe. Level up with Spaceboy Universe. No quarters, no problems. Play it at Spaceboy Universe.
You are listening to Spaceboy Universe. Here are your hosts, Spaceboy and Sir Lana.
Hey, we're back with Marcha Fox. Really fascinating time we're having with you. Now, I know next to nothing about astrology. The only exposure I had it growing up is, the newspaper always had, what's going on with your sign and that stuff. So how did you go through, going through a physics degree, working at NASA where you're in hard science with facts and, you've got the results. So how did you get to astrology? You said, you found out that you're being lied to. So I'm interested in that dichotomy of where you've gone through this science degree where you know how physics works and it really does, but then you've got this other side that you can't prove. That's just really fascinating to me.
Well, to me, physics of all things has so much weirdness behind it.
Yeah, true.
They're talking about multiple dimensions and things that are way weirder than astrology. So I don't understand why they have so much of a problem with it. I personally have less problem believing astrology, even before I watched it work, than this parallel universe business, where every decision that you make splits off into another universe, and part of you goes off in one and does one thing, and the other one does the other. I mean, how
do they know
is that?
That's interesting.
They don't. They do the math. They play with the math, and they come up with all this weird stuff, and then they start interpreting what it means. And who knows? In most cases,
literally
it's
making
probably
it up?
Crazy. No, they're not making it up. I think they're very serious about it, and maybe it's possible. But to me, how can they talk about things like parallel universes and then say nasty things about astrology where there's a whole lot of not empirical, but anecdotal data that astrology works? It's been around for millennia. Something that's around for millennia obviously has some substance behind it. And when I investigated it, initially as a skeptic, and the first thing that I got into was just the personalities of the different signs, and in my observation of people, they fit. And then it wasn't until I was getting ready to retire that I actually studied it formally with an online school that trained you to be a professional astrologer. I thought I knew quite a bit about it when I started into that program. I found out I didn't know anything. But it was really amazing to me how people can be so critical. But most of them probably have the same experience that you have with those horoscopes that you see either online or in the old days in the newspaper. You can't possibly capture what's going on any given day for all the people of a given sign.
Yeah.
And it's like impossible, because everybody is such an individual, and they are not just their sun sign, obviously. It's a combination of their sun sign, their moon sign, their ascendant sign, where all the planets are and what signs they're in, and the way the planets line up with each other and form aspects, and they all have meaning, and each zodiac sign has a certain energy, each planet has a certain energy, and they combine in a certain way. And then there's the asteroids. They have a big bearing in astrology also. So it's very, very complex. I have several shelves of books in my office here on astrology, tons of books, and then people judge it on a daily horoscope they see in the paper. It's like, no, that's not even close. And it's such a deep subject, and there are so many people that are highly educated that are really into it now, and most of them, like myself, that start out as a skeptic, anyone who honestly investigates it is converted, because they can't deny that it works. This is a simple example, even for events. I did blogs over the years, and I still do once in a while, on an event, whether it's a weather event like a hurricane or a tornado, or I did one time years ago when there was the Boston Marathon bombing. Remember that?
Yes.
Oh, yeah.
Well, I did the chart for the moment that happened, and there's the top of the chart, which is important, and it also indicates that the public, it's going to be a very public event, and there's going to be a big awareness of it. And right at that point on the chart was an asteroid named Marathon. Now, what are the odds?
Oh, wow.
Wow.
Yeah, what are the odds? You can't make this stuff up. And with some of the tornadoes that I've looked at, have had just weird stuff like that going on that totally defies probability. There's just no way that it could have just been by chance. And so even though we can't go into the lab and say, okay, here's this little instrument and it picks up the energy that we get from the planets, blah, blah, we can't do that. But when you see it work and do weird things like that over and over and over again, I can't imagine how anybody couldn't admit that there's something to it.
Well, it's hard not to believe that there's a certain synchronicity of the universe, with the way things are and how they line up. And I think that for most of us who live in this matrix-like life, going through cycles and not looking up, it's just a matter of taking the time to break that cycle to actually see the things that you get to see now. Going from somebody being a skeptic about the subject matter to someone who is a believer, it's something to be said by that.
Yeah, I think so, and it's a shame that more people don't give it a chance, because it can really help people. And so many of my clients that come to me are in a crisis, and I can always tell when their life gets better because I don't hear from them so much anymore. But when they're in a crisis situation, whether it's their job or their love life or illness or whatever, that's when they start looking for answers, when they can't find them somewhere else. And I can invariably look at what's going on with them. That what you look at is, first and foremost, is their birth chart, which represents where all the planets were when they were born. And then you look at where the planets are now and how they're interacting with one another. And you can invariably see, oh, well, this is what's going on here. And I can tell them when it's going to end. We always retain our free will. It's not like this is deterministic or anything like that. There's always the free will factor, but those energies are going to be there, and then that person can take those energies and do with them as they choose. And they can either, in some cases, be victimized by it, or they can use it to strengthen themselves and learn and to grow. But it's always there. It's always there. You can always explain it, whatever's going on in someone's life, by looking at these factors out there.
So our lives are influenced by the planets and what they do? So we're kind of actually ruled by space?
In some weird way that I have no clue how it works, the energy of those planets are imprinted upon us when we're born, and that determines our personality and various other factors of our interests, our talents, and our outward appearance, and our emotional makeup. Our core being is basically our sun sign. That is our basic nature. And then all these other things come into play and make us an individual. And then, like I say, the planets are moving out there. They're always out there. And then those energies come in also, and they interact with us and how we're programmed and bring certain influences into our life, and even certain events that we'll experience, and just have a very kind of a cosmic, I see our natal chart as kind of a cosmic imprint of what our life is going to be. And even though we can make certain choices, there's going to be a certain path ahead that we are going to follow. And this goes back even to what I was saying earlier about previous lives and the Michael Newton books, where he talked about what goes on between lifetimes. And he talked about analyzing the previous life. What did you learn? What did you do right? What did you do wrong? What do you want to accomplish with the next life? And I feel like the natal chart comes in with that next life. That is the program that we determined that we want to follow. And it'll put you in certain places at certain times. You'll interact with certain people. It is all has a cosmic basis to it. And it's something where when you can explain to a person why absolutely everything has gone wrong in their life for the last 2 years, and you can tell them that there's influence behind that, lots of times it makes them feel better, especially if they feel that like God hates them or something like that, and why am I being picked on? And then you can see that, and you can say, well, this is just part of your life cycle, that you're supposed to go through this, and there's something to learn about this, and it's not personal, you're not being punished, it's just the way it is, and it can be very comforting to people to realize that they're not being punished, they're not a bad person. A lot of the people that come to me are religious, they're good Christians or whatever, but they're not getting their answers from the religion. And astrology can give them answers that they can't find anywhere else. And I don't think there should be a conflict between religion and astrology, because if God created the planets, then he certainly created astrology. And
created the processes behind
the
planets, right?
Yeah. How could, no one but a God could create astrology and the planets and that influence. And that gets into the history of astrology and the Roman Empire, and there's so many things where it got a bad name. And it's all a lot with the Roman Empire. They didn't want the people to have it because it was too powerful. They wanted to control the people and tell them what to do.
Sounds familiar.
So they, and then of course when the Enlightenment period came along, where you needed to be able to prove everything scientifically, then of course they threw out anything that was esoteric, would throw out the baby with the bathwater, because if they couldn't explain it, then they just ignored it and said it didn't exist. And boy, was that a big mistake, but it happened, and astrology was one of those things that got tossed out the window. But it's still out there, and people practicing it, a lot of people researching it scientifically. I know mathematicians and people with advanced degrees that study it on the research level. There's so many intelligent people out there. I mean, I've had for clients medical doctors, city managers, people with master's degrees, PhDs, that in a way it's almost the more intelligent people recognize that there's something there more than those who believe everything they're told. To me, the inquiring mind.
They're looking for answers.
So does that answer your question, or did I go off on a tangent?
Well, it sounds like to me I need to go maybe educate myself on it better, because, like I said, beyond just the little fringes I've had, the touches of it. But I wanted to ask you, what is Mercury retrograde, and is it real? Because we keep talking to our friend Patrick, and he says, oh, well, Mercury's in retrograde right now because now all this stuff is happening, your technology you may have some technical issues, or this might be going on in your life. And I'm like, well, if it's real, then I want to go punch Mercury in its little planet face. So.
Oh, tell me about it. It is retrograde, and it does hump things up. I mean, for example, the other day, for the first time this year, I got my lawnmower out, and I went out there and I talked to it softly, and I put some gas in it and whatever, and said, we're going to mow the lawn, and went out there, and it started, and we mowed some of the lawn, and it went just fine. And I ran out of gas before it did, and I put it away and thought, okay, I'll continue tomorrow, because I have a half an acre here, so and a walk-behind mower, so, it takes me a while to do it. Well, the next day was the day that Mercury went retrograde, and it wouldn't start. It absolutely wouldn't start. And so to get my lawnmower, I borrowed my neighbor's lawnmower, and meanwhile it's sitting out there, and I think it needs a new spark plug, and it needs a new air filter and such as that, and maintenance on lawnmowers is not my favorite sport, and it'll get done eventually, but good old Mercury retrograde. that night, I went to open the medicine cabinet and a knob fell off in my hand. Just stupid stuff like that. Mercury rules communications, and of course, so many of our communications nowadays are electronic, so that means computers and telephones and things like that tend
Satellites.
to work badly. I know my internet has been moving at a crawl. It's been driving me crazy because it's been running so slow. And anything mechanical. And if you buy anything that's electronic or mechanical when Mercury is retrograde, it's likely going to give you trouble. That I bought even simple things. I bought a cat box, a cat litter box one time during Mercury retrograde, thinking, what could possibly go wrong with a cat litter box, right? Well, I had it about a week, and the door fell off it. And then the lid never fit on it right, and the cats didn't like it, and it was so ridiculous. And then my refrigerator, I bought it just a couple days after Mercury went direct, and you're supposed to give it a little bit of time to come out of it. But my refrigerator had gone out during Mercury retrograde, big surprise. I was tired of living out of an ice chest. So about 2 days after it went direct, I went and bought a refrigerator. Well, the refrigerator was more or less pretty good, except it sounded like it was haunted, and the handle on the freezer was always falling off. So it's just, it's real. And that's one thing that everybody can experience in one degree or another, is this Mercury retrograde business. It's really, I think anybody who's in any kind of internet type of career or work is going to notice that during Mercury retrograde, there's probably going to be a lot more calls and a lot more issues for whatever reason. Weird as can be, but it's real.
I know that since our friend of the show has brought this into our lives to be more knowledgeable of it, we seem to go into like a hibernation mode during this time period and kind of wait things out. And then once all things are clear, it's like, okay, life is back to normal.
I never heard of it till Patrick told us about it, and he's telling us what all it means. And then I don't know if a lot of things. It feels like we had some bad times, and I don't know how to do with Mercury or not. I said, but look, hey, I'll take that as a scapegoat. I said, let's fly to that planet and punch it in the face. So.
Oh, there's a lot of us that would really like to do that. It's
little
really,
teeny thing.
Annoying. It's really annoying. And if you start a new endeavor when it is retrograde, usually it's not going to come to anything. It's going to have to be redone, or it'll just flop or be delayed. It's not a good time to start something new.
Trying to recover from it too is fun.
Yeah, and I have one of my sons. He's really not a big astrology fan. He probably thinks I'm crazy anyway. But every now and then he'll call me and ask me if Mercury's retrograde, and usually it is. But he'll just have a whole bunch of things going wrong, and and he's a Virgo, and Virgo is ruled by Mercury, so they really notice it. And he'll call and say, "Mom, is Mercury retrograde?" And I'll say, "Well, yeah." So it's something that is definitely one of those crazy phenomena that, especially when you start looking for it, you find it even more.
Sometimes Spaceboy gets confused and calls it Mercury metrosexual, and that always cracks me up. So,
but actually, I saw something funny where they were kind of making fun of this at this time. Is I hate it when the moon is aligned and we go into
Gatorade.
Yeah, what was it?
Gatorade.
Mercury Gatorade, and it just I just did a spit take on it because it was
funny.
It just cracked me up. And but yeah, we're consciously aware of that, and we don't fool around. But what is the equivalent of Mercury retrograde in the opposite direction? Where's the good
planet?
We're like, hey, Jupiter is in alignment now, and
everybody party.
Everything. Let's get down and boogie tonight, kind of thing. Where's that opposite? Yeah.
Well, all of the planets, and of course, when Mercury's retrograde, it really didn't reverse direction. We are just passing it. And it's like when you're passing a car on the freeway, and you're going faster than they are, and it looks like they're moving backwards. Well, that's why Mercury looks like it's moving backwards. Right. Obviously, any intelligent person would know that. But what it boils down to, and they all go retrograde at one time or another, but each planet has a particular thing, part of life, that it rules. And so when it goes retrograde, it internalizes that energy and makes it more introspective. For example, like Jupiter is also retrograde right now, and Jupiter rules things like social issues and philosophy of life. What else? Ethics is a big thing. Ethics issues are usually become more pronounced when Jupiter is retrograde. Venus retrograde, that's one that goes way back with ancient civilizations. When Venus goes retrograde, that is when she is the morning star, and that makes her the goddess of war instead of the goddess of love when she's going backwards. But it internalizes their energy. Like Saturn is about building things, and when Saturn's retrograde, which is coming up next month, then things slow down to a crawl, and there's more of an awareness of obstacles and boundaries and having to overcome things, and it just slows down the process. You need my book, Hubita's Guide to Basic Astrology, because it's written for beginners, for people that know absolutely nothing about it, and it's the book that I was looking for when I was first learning, and the information is on my website, but it's a lot easier to look at in a book than bouncing around from page to page with hyperlink bingo on the website.
Well,
it's
we definitely need to.
It's written at a basic level.
I was going to say we definitely need to dive into that because it's a subject matter that's quite interesting, and
we need to be better versed on it,
and definitely need to be better versed on it. And
so we'll talk to more people, I'm sure.
Yeah.
In this subject matter.
It's a lot of fun. It really is, and of course, I obviously I can go on and on and on about a whole lot of things.
Well, what is the thing about being in the different ages? We're still supposed to be in the age of Aquarius, so the next age, from what I understand, is probably going to be quite different. It might even be devastating, or it could be, I don't know, the new Earth or something. So. The only thing I know about that is that song, This is the Dawning of the Age of Aquarius.
Yeah, well, and supposedly that's what we're coming into now. We're coming out of the age of Pisces because the ages go backwards. The sun goes through the zodiac in a forward position where Aries, Taurus, Gemini, Cancer, on around that way, and the ages go backwards, and it has to do with the precession of the Earth also, and various other things that I actually don't even understand real well myself because I haven't studied it. But it's the overall climate of the Earth at that time, and they're quite long. I'm trying to think how long they are. Thousands of years.
Epochs,
each age is thousands of years. Yeah. Yep.
All right, well, we've reached the bottom of the hour. So when we come back,
Dan, holy cow!
When we come back, Marcia, we'll I guess get some final thoughts from you, but also we'll get to plug your social media, and you can tell people where to get your books and all that good stuff. So hold tight. We'll take this final break, and you're listening to Spaceboy Universe, and I'm Spaceboy. She's Sirlana, and on the phone we have Marcha Fox. So stay there.
The epic battle begins this Friday. Direct from ringside at Laser Death Melt Pit. Bot versus Bot in Galaxy's 2-ton weight championship, where your challenger, Good Bot, will face the reigning champion, Bad Bot.
You're terminated.
Reserve seating starting at $30. 2-drink minimum, where ladies don't get in free. This is an SBU production.
You're listening to Space Boy Universe.
You are listening to Space Boy Universe. Here are your hosts, Space Boy and Sir Lana.
Hey, we're back with our final thoughts with our guest, Marcha Fox, which has been awesome and amazing and cool.
Yes, indeed. We've enjoyed your company tonight.
And
well, I've enjoyed yours too.
Now, would you agree that it goes pretty super fast for, you've been on for...
Two and a half hours.
Has it been 2? Yeah.
Well, 9:30 to 10:30.
10:30 to 11:30. So it's back 2 hours. Yeah. So, but yeah, fast is the key word here.
Very fast. Very fast. I can't believe it just boom. But when you're talking about something that you enjoy with intelligent people and you can get into a conversation, it's easy to just keep going on and on.
Well, apparently you weren't a part of that conversation when we had lunch today because Sir Lana doesn't think very highly of my intelligence.
Oh, Lord.
But that's another story.
I'm just dumb enough to be married to you. Is that what you're trying to imply?
Yeah, that's how I felt at lunch. It's like, man, you made me give me a conscientious
But
view
he
of myself.
bought me KFC, and it was awesome, and I loved you for it.
Yeah, that's true, I guess. If I can't have intelligence, at least we have KFC.
That's good.
But anyway.
That's right.
He gave me his mashed potatoes and gravy, too.
Yeah, see.
He said, I'm not going to eat this. I'm
I was afraid that you were about to gnaw my arm off like some rabid raccoon.
I was so hungry. I was eating. I'm like, you going to eat that?
Yeah, so, this is a little taste of what we offer.
But we love talking NASA. We love talking sci-fi. I love talking to writers. So it was just a natural, happy fit.
This had a little bit of everything. It was like a buffet of just different things tonight. And I think even our space cadets love
everything.
Yeah, this. Yeah.
Stefan.
So
nobody could see you doing
I
that,
know,
dear.
but it was an inside joke. So, Marcia, what are some of your final thoughts on just everything we've talked about?
And feel free to plug your stuff.
And feel free, to plug away.
Plug away. Okay. Well, my books are suitable for young adults. They're clean books, and like I was saying earlier, they incorporate some science and engineering in them. There's real science in them, and thus adults enjoy them also, but they are clean. There's 4 of them in the series. It's called the Star Trails Tetralogy. The website is startrailsaga.com. It's a family saga where the father has been targeted by hostile political forces, and they're forced from the one planet they're living on to another one, and when they're en route, various events happen. Their teenage daughter gets accidentally, or so they think, accidentally fired off in this escape pod, and they have to go find her, and the whole family winds up getting separated, and part of the family's on this really nasty planet with absolutely horrendous weather extremes. That was fun for me to design a planet and come up with this weather system. And so the series is a family saga. It's the same characters that go through it. And it's available online, virtually all online outlets, Amazon, Kobo, Barnes & Noble, all of those, as either an electronic book or as a print book. If anybody really wanted to buy print books, they should go to my website, and they can buy them for me for the same price, and I'll autograph them and the whole bit.
Oh, coolness.
And I also have the Who Be This Guide to Basic Astrology. That's also on Amazon and all those other outlets. Same deal. If they want a print version, they can get it directly from me, and I'll even sign it for them. my most recent book called The Terror Debacle, Prisoners at Area 51. It is a spin-off from one of the other books, but it does stand alone. It's an independent story that will make sense even if you haven't read the other series. And I had a whole lot of fun with that one, with a lot of research into Area 51 and what's going on there and the research. And it's on Amazon also. You can look at the reviews for these books and see what other readers have had to say about them and such as that. So that's my plug. And I've really, really enjoyed talking to you folks tonight. Probably one of my favorite subjects that we did touch on is the UFO situation, and why aren't they being more upfront? And actually, obviously, they can't be more upfront because there are national security issues involved. And if we do have these vehicles, we don't want all of our enemies to know our capabilities. It's just that simple. And if they admitted that they were aliens or some of these other things, then the secret's out. And plus things like the abductions, if the government is aware of them and gave permission for that, oh boy, let's see some little protests come out about that business. So it's one of my favorites, and I could go on and on about that forever.
We've learned that disclosure is going to be personal. It's not going to come from a government entity. It's like either you believe or you don't, or you had an experience or you won't. It's just that kind of thing.
Yes, that's very much what Stephen Greer says, is it's not going to come from the government. It's going to come from individuals and their experiences. And I think that probably the majority of people now have either seen one themselves or they know someone who did that they believe. And I really think the majority of people already have a pretty good clue what's going on, except your hardened skeptics. And hardened skeptics are so pathetic because they just make up their mind on something without investigating it. They believe what other people tell them, just like the people that totally don't believe in astrology. I answer questions on Quora periodically on astrology, and it always kills me when some skeptic gets in there and says, oh, this isn't true and it doesn't work and blah, blah. It's like, oh, really? Have you ever tried it? Have you ever studied it? On what do you base that? And the people that just make a judgment on something because someone told them that, and it's simpler for them to believe it than to investigate it themselves, they're missing out on so many really interesting things about life. And I just roll my eyes because to me, learning is so much fun.
It is.
And find new things and having an open mind and entertaining these different possibilities. And of course, as an author, that's the natural thing as an author. You can't go around with a closed mind if you're going to write fiction, especially science fiction.
Right. You know, I totally agree with you in the sense that it's important to have an open mind and to listen to what's out there, because if we don't and we close our minds off, we're going to miss the truth, and that enlightenment period will bypass us and we'll never grow as individuals.
Absolutely. Reminds me of the X-Files. We didn't talk about that.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, he could talk about that for a while.
Yeah.
But it's so true. There's so many weird things, and the truth is out there, and if people will pay attention, they can find a lot of truth right now. You're not going to find it on CNN, believe me.
No. Or Facebook.
Yeah, Facebook and,
Oh, don't you love this Facebook stuff now where people are all outraged because their personal data was used by
Yeah, they got hit with 4 lawsuits over a scandal.
Oh, please. I mean, anyone who posts anything on Facebook, they really think that's private?
Right.
Seriously? I just laugh at that so much and think, how could anybody think that something that you put on Facebook is private? In your dreams. And then they get all, upset and everything about it. And it's like, just shows that the average intelligence out there is pretty pathetic.
And then the thing that I think that cracks me up is that, all these people that have posted things, it's going to haunt them later on in life when they see pictures of provocative pictures of when they were younger, and like, okay, I don't know if I can.
Oh yeah, when you posted, your stupid little
photos.
photos.
And some of the drama. These people that just put all of their drama out there, and families that get into these big, crazy feuds over, and they just have to vent instead of talking to the person and working out their problems. They have to post all this nasty stuff on Facebook, and it just amazes me. It's like, oh, come on, people, get a brain.
We keep ours as neutral as possible.
Well, I think our space cadets know that we approach the show in a sense that we want to have a dialogue. There is so much we have in common. Politics is not the end-all of our conversations. Before politics, there was discussions that we would have about topics that are now polarizing, and we didn't fight about it. We actually had a civil conversation and came to understanding. And
I won't talk politics unless I'm looking you in the eyeball. That's my rule.
But
Well, and I'm a real hybrid that way. I'm just off between somewhere that you call common sense, because there's both sides. Two very polarized sides. But to me, the truth lies down the middle in some common sense that we're not seeing from either side.
Right.
Oh, I just clicked a link while we're talking to you that says Trump signed into law a massive $1.3 trillion spending bill that will fund the federal government for the rest of the fiscal year, and it's generous to NASA. So they're getting $350 million in 2018 for future launches of the Space Launch System.
Very good.
It says there's a mobile launcher under construction at the Kennedy Space Center in Florida.
Well, taking that, but going back to our discussion earlier about how the shuttle had, these things that would fall in the ocean and all that, going back to Elon Musk and his craft, I think it's so impressive that he has these return modules that come back and land, so he can recycle.
Oh, absolutely, absolutely! And it's so cool what he has done.
Yeah, I mean, it's so science fiction, like coming to reality. When I saw these things in a video, it was funny because he was inside like his command module, and then all of a sudden he runs outside, and then you see these things land. Outside, and what is even cooler beyond that is there was one that landed on a platform out on the ocean and landed perfectly. And the end result is he's successful at it, but he's had some issues leading up to that. But the fact that he's made that happen is like just totally blows my mind.
I think he might be part alien.
Well, he does kind of look alien.
Oh, legit.
I used to think that because he kind of came out of nowhere as far as I was concerned. It's like, who the heck is this guy? Mm-hmm. Where did he come from, and where did he get all his money? And that was why I read his biography and found out, he made this money in that .com explosion way back in the 90s? I guess the 80s. Mm-hmm. 80s, 90s, whatever it was, and he made a whole bunch of money with PayPal and a couple other things, and that's where he got his seed money, because he didn't come from a real wealthy family or anything, and so he's very self-made, totally.
A very interesting story. But, all right. Well, Marcia, we appreciate you spending time with us, and hopefully in the future you might consider coming back with us, talk on some other various subjects.
Even a new release or something?
Yeah, a new release, and the door to our universe is open for you.
You don't have to talk for 2 hours if you don't want to.
Yeah.
Unless you want to.
Well, I've enjoyed it. It's like I keep waiting for you to tell me to shut up. It was time to go.
Never. We wouldn't do that.
We sneak the guests on, and we keep them talking. If they don't say they need to go, we just keep them talking. We just wait to see if they say they need to leave.
We play that game. How far can we go? Mm-hmm. And you made the distance, so you've won the marathon tonight.
So we snuck you in, so the extra time.
Well, I've thoroughly enjoyed it. It's been a pleasure.
Well, great. Well, like I said, the invitation is open at any time, and if something comes up...
Yeah, or you guys call in and say hi while we're doing another show.
Yeah, since you're going to be a part of our universe. So, all
And
right.
I have family in Houston, so maybe sometime we can do lunch or
Absolutely.
something.
Oh, yes, definitely.
Yeah.
Come see us at Comic Palooza in May.
Just might do that.
Oh,
Sounds
cool.
like a plan.
All right. Well, we'll talk to you soon then.
Okay, it's been wonderful.
All right.
Thank
Have
you.
a good one.
Have a good evening.
Okay. Okay.
Bye-bye.
Oop, hope I didn't hang up on her.
All right. So I'm going to give Sirlana the gift of a break here for a second. So
We've got a little emergency.
so we'll be right back after this wonderful song. All right, we're back. That was man, tongue-tied. I knew I shouldn't have eaten that Rolo during the break.
Caramel.
Solaris. That's the name of the song in honor of our friend Solaris Blue Raven. I had a good time talking to her and Patrick last night on Hyperspace.
I really think Marcia and Patrick and Solaris could all be really good friends.
Mm-hmm.
How do we get them
How do we make that happen?
to each other?
Mm-hmm.
Well, I guess we could just tell Solaris about Marcia, and then they could have her on, and they could all have a big love fest together.
Mm-hmm. But yeah, I was getting the usual Patrick things during the break.
Patrick, hot updates.
Yeah, hot updates. I'll get my report card after the show, and
it better be good, because I think that was a great show. If he's
Yeah.
got any criticism, I'll smack him.
It falls right into kind of what we talked about the other night when he and I and you had a conversation with him. We recorded a commercial and a promo from him, and you'll start to see that in the bumper rotation, and really cool. Looking forward to getting that done. So, as we head down the road to outro, This is a housekeeping moment.
Well, like I said, we had a good day today. We learned more about what's coming up for us with our involvement with Comic Palooza and Houston Maker Faire in the fall. So we're going to get that ball rolling soon, and we'll let you know when we'll be making our appearances there. So as far as next week's show, SBU, we will be having, of course, the incomparable Jim and Jody Bray.
Yay!
Almost like our other parallel universe selves.
Mm-hmm.
And they'll be updating us, I hope, on their original live-action sci-fi productions, which they are getting into. And we've been seeing all the production photos from that, which is really, really, really cool. So they said they also want to talk paranormal. So I'm hoping they have something to talk about, because I'll have to figure something out. But so that's going to be fun. We always have fun with them. They're a fun couple. That'll always be entertaining. So be here for that next Saturday, same day, same time, same place.
Same bat channel. So yeah, that'll be fun. And of course, coming up on April the 7th, we have a musical guest that will be here, Uncle Brent of No Stone Music. I've known him for a long time, and he's a great guy and entertaining, and I'm kind of introducing the Space Cadet Army to him, to you, and that should be a good show too. So, and we keep booking guests, so this is a good time to be listening to the SBU. One guest after another, and it's only getting better as we move towards the 3rd year of Spaceboy Universe on the air. So that's pretty exciting stuff. As I mentioned earlier in the program, as we move towards Comic Palooza, if you're interested and you're going to be in the Houston area during, what's the dates again, Sir Lana?
That is going to be the weekend before Memorial Day.
Mm-hmm.
So that'll be 25th, 26th, and 27th of May. That's Friday, Saturday, and Sunday.
We're looking for a crew, and you could be a part of the Space Boy crew to help us out.
We can get you in there.
Mm-hmm, get you in.
So don't worry about the cost of getting into
we can get you in there. If you want to help out and volunteer, that'd be great. All expenses are not paid by us.
You'll have to pay to park. You'll have to pay to get your own food.
You have to do your own thing, but
you're allowed 2 bathroom breaks, though.
Don't listen to her. Anyway, so that'll be fun. If you want to be a part of that, we're looking for people to be a part of the history again at Comic Palooza. And we had a good time. It was fun.
I think I've semi-recruited my sister. I don't know. I've not committed her to it, so we'll see.
Okay. Well, only time will tell. So that expect more Comic Palooza updates as we move forward to that moment in time. And, just expect that. What else we got there?
I think, are we going to have Patrick back next?
Oh, yeah, I didn't even think about that. Man, speaking of Patrick, Patrick will be on in April.
Patrick Spora will return.
I think he mentioned the weekend of the
21st.
That 21st, or was it?
Yeah,
I thought it was the weekend of the thing.
Because I was like, hey, that's my birthday week, so
okay.
18, 19, 20, 21.
Okay, all right. Yeah, that's what I was trying to factor in. So, Patrick will be back, and we'll have a lot to talk to him about. And
we'll probably talk more pop culture-y stuff.
Yeah.
Not just dream stuff.
He loves movies like I do, and
but he can see things in TV and films that we don't see, because he can connect it to what he does, too.
Yeah, it's always an interesting conversation with Patrick. So, tune in for that. That'll be another great show. And, I've got some reaching out to do to a few other people, and those shows are going to be interesting, too. History-related,
I've got topics that I want to research and cover, not necessarily guest-related, but it's one of these things where I want to learn more about it, so I want to tell you what I learned. So,
so just keep tuned in to Spaceboy Universe, and show after show you'll enjoy. So what else, Solana? As I'm looking at the time here, we got a couple more minutes here before I have to roll credits. Anything you can think of off the top of your head? Anything profound that you want to tell?
I have things I could talk about, but it's probably not a good idea to talk about them here.
I want to just let you know, audience, she had that evil raccoon rubbing his hands look about her when she was saying that. So I can only imagine.
The kind of things I'm talking about is if you're friends with me on Facebook, you'll see I allude to it more personal stuff.
Is it about
neutral
creating pictures out of the pen tool or not the pen tool?
Yeah. I have things I'd love to tell y'all because it's hysterical, but it's not politic. You know what I'm saying?
It's not political correct. No.
Well, no, it's not in my best interest
to say
diplomatic.
Anything?
Yeah, it's not in my best interest to talk about that subject.
Well,
why are people deliberately misspelling my name in the chat?
Sirlani?
Yeah.
I don't know. Maybe Dennis has had a few, maybe.
Well, probably he's celebrating early, maybe.
Oh, probably. It's his birthday. Happy birthday. Gonna celebrate like it's your birthday.
I am getting me some alcohol next month. Let me tell you what.
You know, I want to let you know that I have gone by several specs here in Houston.
Problem is,
I think about you all the time. Like, I got a few minutes. Maybe I could pop in and get you some Baileys, and then I like.
You don't do it.
No, I don't do it. I want to get home, and I miss you so much, and
that's a little
to
crap.
Spend a few minutes
that's a little crap.
Get you alcohol versus actually spending that extra time of watching you read a book with your headphones. You know, I call her headphones that she wears husband blockers because I could be talking to her, and it's like it doesn't mean a crap of thing because she's not listening to me. So ooh. So I guess this is a magical moment where, I can say, it is what it is, and this brings us to the end of our show. So Space Cadets, I love you, man, and women, and all those in-betweens. And join us next week when we'll have Space Boy Universe again, won't we? Right, Solana?
Yeah, you can't avoid it.
It's an inevitability. Good night, y'all.
Spaceboy Universe is hosted by Spaceboy and Sirlana. Executive producer is Sirlana. Social media producer is Dennis Koch. Associate producer is Lee Ann Cordes. Music production is Spaceboy of SpaceboyMusic.com. Special thanks goes out to Lee Ann K28, Solars Blue Raven, Patrick Spurrier, Dino, Bob and Beverly M. This has been a Spaceboy Universe production. Support the universe by exploring Spaceboy Universe with Spaceboy and Sirlana, Sweet Dreams Space Cadets.